Please welcome Dax Hill, Senior Innovation Manager, Vanguard.
All right, good morning. How you guys doing? Good? You enjoying the program so far? Excellent. Well, as the introduction said, my name is Dax Hill. I'm Senior Innovation Manager of the Investment Management FinTech Strategies Group at Vanguard. I'm also COO of Vanguard FinTech Ventures. Vanguard is incredibly proud to be one of this year's platinum level sponsors of this event, and I'm thrilled to be introducing our next two speakers. So as I mentioned, I'm from Vanguard, and I can't assume that everyone knows what company that is, but we are based right here in Malvern, humble little company with about $8 trillion in assets under management. And we've been around for a very long time, over 4 decades. And if you think about what has attributed most to Vanguard's success, it would be 4 things: providing superior products for our clients, providing delightful customer experiences, achieving strong performance outcomes, as well as seeking new ways to innovate, one of which includes automation. And so when you think about automation and the way that is helping people invest at Vanguard and open up and democratize investing, that's one clear benefit, but there are many others. Everything from simplifying complex tasks to allowing companies and individuals to create better products, some of which you've seen today, and reaching higher levels of productivity among teams. There's also some really interesting considerations that we must be mindful of, including the social and cultural impacts that result from the use of this technology, as well as the ethical and moral implications related to automation, namely privacy, bias, and discrimination. So with that, please give your full attention to our two speakers. Let me signal them. This is your time, you guys. Okay, so our first speaker, Vijay Khanna, Chief Corporate Development Officer of UiPath, and Rajendra Prasad, who I recently learned goes by RP, so RP for short, Global Automation Lead at Accenture and co-author of The Automation Advantage, as they develop the topic in the next segment in our program, Automation Heralds a New Era of Productivity. The floor is yours, gentlemen.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am the RP. I have a name though. It goes as Rajendra Prasad. And I never knew that my dad named me as RP so that I can do automation, and that became RPA. And I think that's how I grew up doing automation from the childhood. On a serious note, I'm the Global Automation Lead for Accenture. It's my privilege today to introduce Vijay, who is my friend, colleague, and we work very closely together. We will keep this very interactive, and I would also like to have questions from you if you would want to ask any questions related to automation. And Vijay is going to be the speaker today. Vijay, want to do a quick introduction?
Well, I feel very lucky to be here. It's not every day that we get to RP, and I think I'm speaking for you on this one as well. I live about 15 minutes away. I live in Bryn Mawr, and so it's not every day that I get to get in my car and drive to a conference. It's not every day that I get to come to a conference that's titled Automation. It's certainly not every day that I get to sit with a guy who knows an order of magnitude more about automation than I do. He's written a book. And he runs an entire massive practice on automation at Accenture. So I feel very fortunate, very lucky, and just, Dean, thank you so much for having us over here. I really appreciate it, and thanks to everyone for PACT for having me, and looking forward to talking about UiPath. A lot of things happening in our company, especially today. So looking forward to telling the story.
Thank you, and I'm probably going to use some of the automation on my phone to have this dialogue and look at the script and questions. We want to have a quick dialogue on what we do, what are the trends of automation today, what's its impacting in the industry, and that kind of question. So Vijay, we met in a forum, the big event you guys run in Vegas.
Yeah.
And from that day to now, there's a lot of things changed in your company as well as in the world of automation.
Yeah.
So I just want to briefly touch upon aspects that moved both from your organization point of view as well as from the industry point of view?
Yeah.
What happened in the automation space? Let's start there.
Sure. RPA is a term that we don't use anymore, at least at UiPath, for the past, maybe call it 3 years, 2.5, 3 years or so. But I would like to provide some historical context on what RPA used to be and kind of how we have evolved from RPA. So robotic process automation, what do we actually do and what do vendors in our category do? So robotic process automation, the way it began was to look at work, typically back office work, typically very repetitive, mundane, boring work, and we meaning the vendors in the space, would automate that repetitive work. UiPath, the company that I work for, we differentiated from the rest of the players in the field because our secret sauce, which is even true today, is computer vision. What computer vision means is it's our ability to be able to look at a screen, a monitor, irrespective of where that screen is, and be able to engage with applications just how as a user would engage with an application. I want to stress on that a little more. So we can engage with SAP, we can engage with Oracle, we can engage with Microsoft, we can engage with web browsers, just how a normal user would engage with that application. We look at the work that knowledge workers are doing. We began by looking at boring, repetitive work. So think of KYC, know your customer, anti-money laundering, trade reconciliation. Just as, actually, let's even go something more basic. Invoice processing. We look at how that invoice is processed, and we would run our automation to automate that rather than having a human being do highly repetitive, boring work. So that's what automation used to be, RPA used to be, in the 2015, 16, 17, 18 timeframe. And we, as a company, completely separated away from the pack in 18. And I'm just going to provide, because I think numbers tell a better story than me sitting down over here and explaining it. So I just want to provide some historical context. In 2015, my CEO, today he is my co-CEO, Daniel Dines, was in a small little apartment in Bucharest, Romania. He used to work for Microsoft in Redmond. He left. He went to Romania. Small little apartment. 2015, we had less than 10 customers, call it about 100,000 or so in revenues. That was 2015. Fast forward 3 years, we are in 2018. We have scaled our revenues to 165 million. And I want to be careful, it's annual recurring revenue. A lot of RPA companies commingle what's called professional services, what Accenture does in spades, and software. We are a pure software when you look at it from that angle. So we scaled from, call it 500,000 to 160 million in annual recurring revenue in 3 years. We were not the leaders in RPA in 2018. We were there circling in the leader quadrant, but we were not the leaders, especially not in the early part of 2018. We went from having less than 5 or so customers to having about 1,000 customers. Now let's fast forward 3 years. We're in 2021. We closed 2021 with 840 million in revenues. So that's from 160 to 840 million. We have over 10,000 customers, 90% of the Fortune 10, 70% of the Fortune 500. We are the undisputed leader in automation, not even close to any other competitor. I share that not because I am very proud of my company. I share that less so about UiPath, but more so that when I began in this journey in automation, which was about 5 years ago, people questioned whether is this really real? Is this automation really real? And you don't scale to $1 billion in revenues and do what we've done if the customers were not happy. There is one other metric. This is a Wall Street metric. It's a very important metric if you're a software company. It's called net expansion rate. And we have a net expansion rate of 145%. What does that mean? That means how when we get into a customer, our ability to scale, call it beyond the CFO's office, is extraordinarily high. So we feel very fortunate in how we have fashioned it. And as we go through this discussion, I'd love to tell you on how we have moved away from doing what RP and I would call core RPA to how we have expanded that platform and what were all the key pillars in expanding that platform. But at the core, we look at work. If it's repetitive, it's mundane, if it's monotonous, our goal over here is to automate that work so that we could improve human productivity, so that we can unlock human capital. That's our mission. That's what we come to work for every day.
Okay, that's actually brilliant. And Vijay and me were talking, and thank you to the PACT and the team here. This is one of the first conference that we both are, where the title of the conference is automation. Otherwise, we usually go to different conferences where there is a DevOps and AI, machine learning, there are a lot of topics.
That's true.
But the automation itself is not at the core of it, it is part of it. So I'm very privileged and I'm very happy to be here on a conference that is completely focused on automation, which is my day job, every day, morning to evening. That's all I do in my life. So I'm very happy to be here. The reason I bring that up is, Vijay, because today's world, after pre-pandemic and through the pandemic and what we're doing, a lot of interest in terms of automation. At the same time, a lot of people still worry about, does automation take away my job? We in Accenture believe in what we call as a human plus machine concept, human augmented, machine automated. That's how we drive the automation. So what's in our experience, how does this change aspect of, how does automation impact my job? Will I have my day living every day? So how do you address that, and what's the thinking in with respect to that in UiPath and what you do in your job?
I spend, I would say, about 90% of my time with customers. I do have some title. Rahim will tell you I don't do what I'm supposed to do. I spend most of my time with customers. I get my marching orders from our customers. And when we tell customers what we do, and when the customers use our products, the first thing we hear from the customers is, thank God. Thank God for what you guys have built. I don't think any of us in this hall have heard of anyone who goes back home after long days of work and says, guess what? I entered data into a spreadsheet better. I don't think so. I don't think anyone goes into work saying, I was able to go into that SAP screen, then get the purchase order, go to FedEx, put the purchase order, go to Coupa, do XYZ, and then do it. No one goes back and says, I did an exceptional job at data entry. No contact center agent says, I was able to pull the data while the customer called in 3 minutes. That's not what they talk about. What they talk about is, I'm having fun at work. That's what people want to do. They want to have fun at work. They want to make work fun again. And so there are two metrics. I shared one, which is 145%. It's a fact. If that number was not right, we wouldn't have expanded the way we have. Our people actually talk about this, and I'll talk about this right now. Excuse me, I have allergies. I've tested myself 800 times. It's pure pollen out there. when we think about labor and we think about the impact it'll have, we went public last year, just about a year ago, and in advance of going public, we were preparing our S1 document. And one of the things while we were doing that was we were very lucky. McKinsey, the Global Institute at McKinsey, in partnership with the US Department of Labor, put together a study that spoke about productivity. And I wish I had that slide over here, and if anyone's interested, I could send that to you after this talk. Over the next 50 years, if you think about how we're going to improve GDP growth, it's not going to be through an expansion of labor. It's going to be through an expansion of productivity. GDP growth over the next 20, 30 years is going to come from how you improve productivity, not by infusing more labor. And so when you start thinking about productivity, our dream, our aspiration at UiPath is every single knowledge worker, whether they work in a school, in a regulated government environment, or in an enterprise, they have their own personal digital assistant that does 20, 30, 40% of the work, which is what could be automated. The only way you improve productivity, the only way you can actually do it is through a solution, a potential solution like ours. And we see that all day long. And so when it comes to the impact on labor or the impact of job loss, RPI used to hear that in 2017 and 2018. Now, especially over the last several months, I've been hearing, we just cannot attract folks to do it. And by the way, even if we do attract folks, who wants to sit down and do the boring part of trade reconciliation? I would rather be talking to the customer. And a lot of those folks who are doing that now have been reskilled to become data scientists. So that's the ground truth.
No, I think that validates what I experience on the field as well, right?
Yeah.
So in today's world, automation and taking out repetitive tasks is a table stake.
Yes.
You don't want to be spending your hard-earned business dollars to be doing a day-to-day repetitive task. And you're absolutely right. And that's the kind of experience and reaction I get from the field in terms of impact of automation on the jobs.
Yeah.
And, we're working on a lot of research projects on that, but I think automation today is a table stakes to make sure your business runs 100%. In the right space.
If I could just, we helped in the processing of PPP loans, major banks. We were commissioned to come in by the C-level executives of these household name banks. I suspect most of you bank there, several of them, and said, we need your help in 48 hours to help us with the processing of the PPP loan, the Paycheck Protection Program. Or the New York State Department of Labor saying, we need to make sure that we are taking care of fraud. Or state and local governments saying, we need to make sure that the food stamp program actually works, otherwise we, at the federal level, will get penalized. Or a major hospital saying, we need to make sure we can do patient eligibility and patient credentialing better. My favorite one is the United States Air Force. Actually, I can talk about this openly because they have it all over their website. At a Air Force base station where they have weapons, there is a process called gate chart maintenance. It takes 50 hours to do this by an airman. And our software robots can do that in less than 2 minutes. It's on their website. It's a very boring, repetitive process. Airmen shouldn't be sitting down doing maintenance gate charts. This just goes to show how that productivity is getting unleashed and how they're actually enjoying work.
Yeah, I think it's very important, like the way you say, productivity leading to speed to market.
Yeah.
In the past, when 6-7 years back, when automation, in the definition that it exists, a lot of people used to say automation is for just cost saving.
Yeah.
Labor arbitrage and get the cost,
yes.
Get the product. Today, automation is what I call as speed to market along with cost efficiency.
That's right.
It is just not, and then because it is automated, there is a quality element that comes in the speed, cost, quality parameters, right?
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right in terms of how this whole journey is moved forward.
Yeah.
One of the important topic that you touched upon in the previous day is the talent and the skills. So in my experience, there are two dimensions to skills, right? One is the skills of an enterprise day-to-day business skills, and the second skill set is automation skill set. Both are premium now, right? By infusing automation, you need to build the skills related to automation.
Yeah.
At the same time, how do you manage this talent aspects of automation in the current world on that?
I mentioned earlier that from a product perspective, what has helped separate us from the other players is, well, first of all, we come into work every day with just one goal, and that is uppercase A, automation. That's what our PhD is, that's what our major is. We don't get caught up in games, we don't get caught up in IT ticketing systems, we don't get caught up in any of those things. Our focus is 100% maniacally obsessed on automation, and how do we take that automation factory and how do we expand that automation factory? That's what we do. And so to RP's question on the talent, one of the brilliant moves that my CEO made, Daniel Dines, was even before we turned on the go-to-market engines, we built a community. And you can go to UiPath community and you can download our community edition product at no cost, free, and start using it. And he did it because he felt he would get really the fastest feedback on whether our product is working or not working, or what are the areas we need to work on. And I'd love to tell you more about the community product that we have. It's unbelievable scale. But when I joined UiPath, I think there were about 100,000 people on UiPath community. I'm talking subscribers who actually downloaded and working. And RP, I checked a few weeks ago, we today have over 1.2 million subscribers on our community edition. That is just where people are using the product, and we have, I don't know the exact count, I think it's over 500 universities and schools that are using UiPath automation. So I think if we can get that provided freely in the community, like 1.2 million, and we can go ahead and give it to schools, I think that's going to help us.
Brilliant.
It's helping us.
Yeah, no, the skill part is very important. I'm not sure anyone has any question to Vijay before we go forward with other questions. Go ahead, please.
Vijay, you mentioned digital assistants like Alexa or Siri. Are they competitors to UiPath?
Yeah, no. So so the direct answer to the question, Lauren, is that we don't. I have not been in any sales cycle where Siri or Cortana are competitors to us. That specific feature, that specific product would, in our parlance, would be called a conversational AI feature product. And so we have conversational AI capabilities that we have baked into the product. An example, of course, would be, I'm just going to give you a very simple example is, customer texts or messages the chatbot agent that I need to transfer $500 from my savings account to my checking account. That invokes a UiPath robot that goes, transfers the money, that does all the things. So we have those capabilities, and we're also very big in partnering in those capabilities. But they're not, when you think of our bread and butter use cases, like an enterprise use case, patient eligibility, food stamp, trade reconciliation, I can keep on going. That's not something that we face them. No.
Yeah, I think that's, just to add to what Vijay said, the conversational AI concepts that are in the industry today, the example that you took, Siri or Alexa or Google search, they use a base technology called knowledge graph and data graph techniques, and they are primarily search engines on the knowledge and data and then voice imposed on the top of it. And the bots that Vijay refers to in the platform that he talks about are an automation of a workflow engine and infusing a voice acceleration or a chat on the top of it is quite easy.
Yeah.
There are the elements that you can just plug and play, API components today that you can do. Even you can interface with Siri or Alexa if required on the top of that workflow automation. So in summary, that's the knowledge graph aspect and is primarily what uses those technologies, and what Vijay is talking about, the entire workflow engine. Thank you for that question. We have time for one more question, please.
So my question is more about the SaaS-based models that are out there today. So legacy RPA tools, which I like UiPath, Pega, great tool sets. But with the upcoming SaaS-based model that's really focused on, you name your favorite tool, is probably a SaaS-based engine, right? Salesforce is an example. Office 365, who doesn't use it? You have players now doing, like Microsoft's now doing Power, Automate.
Yeah.
Google has theirs moving online. What do you see from a competition standpoint of how to differentiate being a third-party entity that's agnostic to the vendors out there, Microsoft, Google, and Facebook, versus the ones that are actually building it integrated in, Microsoft's building it in? What do you think about that?
That's an awesome question. I'll take a little diversion to provide some context and then directly answer the question, if that's okay with you. So why did RPA succeed? You could say massive cost savings. You could say significant improvement with compliance. Of course, you can say productivity improvement. But really, from a product perspective, why did it succeed? It succeeded because, in many ways, automation is a lot like a self-driving car. Really, if you want to have that as a visual, as a metaphor, it's like a self-driving car. A self-driving car doesn't come and say, change the bridges, change the tunnels, change your Lancaster Avenue around Malvern, between Malvern and Paoli. It's horrible with a lot of potholes. I want it to be smooth. The self-driving car doesn't say, change the infrastructure. The self-driving car knows the infrastructure and drives on the existing infrastructure. It understands the cars around it. We call that semantic automation, which is which I cannot wait to get up every morning and drive it, because I think that'll be the biggest thing that we have seen in tech, which is what we are working on. It's not done, but that's what we're working on. So what happened with automation, and the great question that's been asked over here? When I began my career in 1994-98, a normal enterprise had 5 to 10 applications. Fast forward to 2005, that became 50 or so applications, maybe it'll be 100 applications. Where am I going with this? Today, just UiPath, small company, we have about 400 applications that we subscribe to, that we are paying for. NetSuite, Coupa, Concur, Microsoft Office 365, all of those. So the question over here is, how would we, UiPath, play with the new SaaS-based applications, and you specifically asked for Power Automate? What do we do from an architectural perspective is we sit on top of all of these applications. And we look at how these users, we are the single pane of glass that sits. And we don't care whether that application is in the cloud, whether that application is on-premise, or that application is a hybrid. As a matter of fact, our automation cloud is the fastest growing part of our business. We have close to 4,000 customers. It's over 100 million in less than 24 months. I've never seen growth like this, at least in the enterprise space. And so what we do is we approach automation use cases from the lens of complexity. You have a task, you have a long-running business process, think employee onboarding. Our ability to engage, integrate with a variety of different applications, whether they are on-premise, yes, there are tech companies that entirely run on cloud. We love those companies. But let's just say the Fortune 500 still have instances An RP can give you the ground truth because he eats, sleeps, breathes this, and he has a massive team that does this. They still have instances of on-prem. They still have customized software. They still have hybrid. And so we just are agnostic to any of those. We sit on top, and we're able to take complex processes and apply our platform from process mining, task capture, integration, automation, test, all for the purposes of an enterprise to be able to do those complex tasks. We are not, maybe put it in a different way, we are not saying we want to pull data out of an Outlook and automate that. We're just looking at a very different set of use cases. I don't know if that helped in any way.
The Tesla analogy was spot on. I really enjoyed that. That's actually a great summary.
Yeah, self-driving cars. I mean, that really,
Drive on the existing, don't try to change it.
Precisely. Yeah.
Okay, that's brilliant, because I thought I'll augment that, but I think that analogy landed, so we don't want to do additional thing.
You're not allowed to do that.
Please go ahead.
I wanted to ask you, what keeps you up at night where, automation is becoming obviously the evolving process, then you have cybersecurity and other attacks that are making the environment very vulnerable.
Absolutely.
Is this one of the things that concerns you? And how do you tackle that? It's evolving as well as automation is.
Vijay, you want to go first, and then I will do that, or I can.
I don't know. You, please.
You are absolutely right. The only thing that I tell my team every day is, don't wake me up in the night and say that we had an attack in the system. This is what I keep telling them, because we had an attack 6-7 months back where we had to recover and do this, where this is one of the biggest things. What people forget is that when you put automation in place, what is automation? It is a software at the end of the day. Whether it is a bot, whether it is a script, whether it is anything, it's a software. So I used to read Mythical Man One's book, and like we all know that there are a lot of rules in that still apply. So I tell that when you put an automation in place, don't forget fundamental software engineering principles. They all still apply. If you have 100 bots in your enterprise, do you know if 10 bots go down tomorrow, not because of security threat or a vulnerability, but because of something else? If it is humans, then you can make a call, send a text. In my days when I did support, we used to have beepers, text messages on the beeper and all that. But you can do that. But if it is bot, how do you do? Have you done a DR plan for your bots? Do you, on a random basis, stop 15 bots in your organization and see business can still run?
Yeah.
Do you have your security team patching your bots on a regular basis to make sure there is no security vulnerability attacking this? So that's the most important aspect. So in summary, don't forget that automation at the end of the day is a piece of software. So all of the rules of software engineering still apply.
Yeah, that's brilliant. To add to that, and it goes back to some historical context, in 15, 16, 17, at least in 2017, it was a big deal if we could get 100 bots in a customer. Actually, we would win many times if it was the more the bots, because it's implicit in the question you asked is resiliency. Will the bot break if I fire up 200 bots? There are competitors whose bots broke at 50. So when I was in a competitive sales cycle, I would say just use our bots and their bots and turn that up to 200 and let the bots do the talking. Now it's becoming interesting. Now CEOs are saying we want a robot for every employee. So now what keeps me up at night is the bots have to be resilient, and we have a very, very big team. We are a product company to make sure that those bots are resilient, and the tapestry that we have built from process mining, task mining that integrates with core automation. There's so many dependencies on processes, on actually getting that work done that is important. But what keeps me up at night is, I just candidly is We have been at it for a while. We had a very successful IPO. I just hope everyone runs as fast as they bloody ran 5 years ago. Complacency kills, and I just hope everyone in my company is as hungry and as customer obsessed as they were in 2015. That's what keeps me up at night. I'm a paranoid freak, so I just am always worried that there's someone out there who's going to disrupt me. So I can't take that out. I'm married a psychologist, but I just hope we keep moving at the pace we are.
All right. Yeah. I will just, Vijay, I think just to bring home, what are the new technologies that you see? Maybe like low code, no code. I strongly believe that there is nothing called no code. There is some code somewhere that is doing low code aspect of it. So how do we see these new technology evolutions like SaaS-based implementation, low code, no code, impacting the overall automation landscape?
Yeah, we know this. Everyone in this room knows this. We every few years come across a acronym, a buzzword that has that gift, that amazing gift of being a catch-all phrase. So this no code, low code is that catch-all phrase. And I'm not being negative on it. We have it. We do it. We could probably do a better job at it. But the low code, no code, at the end of the day, if you really just look at it in very simplistic terms, is an authoring tool. It's a canvas that allows you to map what application you're trying to build, whether that requires you to inject code or whether that requires you not to inject code, and then hopefully run that process. I believe that we, as vendors, as actors in the world of automation, want to make sure that we are not increasing ambient noise. We want to make sure that we are not adding technical debt. We want to make sure that we are not adding shadow IT. And so the way we approach it, RP, is how could we provide that stunning rendering capability, that beautiful canvas, with all the paints and all the paintbrushes to allow you to map out your process and build the application, but then kind of sort of make sure that is, at the end of the day, that app that you're building, whether that's a cafeteria menu app, whether that's a billing system for a telco, or whether that's a employee onboarding, doesn't matter. That's actually being done where it's not adding ambient noise, where it's not adding technical debt. We approach it from that lens. In terms of new technologies, there's just nothing that keeps me more excited than the power of the semantic web, the semantic automation. Okay. And the semantic automation is, I understand all these cars that are around you. I'm just going to stick with that because it's landed. I understand that there are these bridges. I understand there's a big pothole over there. And we are going to help not only automate that work, but we are going to predict if you are taking on risk and you are an actuarist. We'll not only help you take that data model that you've built and make it portable, but we could help you with some ways to improve the process. There is not a single process within an enterprise that cannot be enhanced through the use of automation. Not a single process. So our goal over here as an actor in this is to help improve that process. And that comes through semantic automation.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And one thing I will definitely take away is drive the car on the existing infrastructure.
Precisely.
Don't change it.
There you go.
I think thank you very much for the insightful discussion. I thank the audience for the questions. Thank you very much. Pleasure talking to you, Vijay.
Thank you, brother.
Vijay and RP, thank you. We're going to hear from RP later today. Vijay, I hope you can stay just for a little bit, and continue the dialogue. I want to thank our sponsor again for this session. Some really great insights. One of the takeaways early for me as an investor, net expansion rate. Going to be looking at that one a lot closer. And in that regard, I looked at yours, and it's downright impressive. So again, appreciate both of you being here today. All right, we're ready to stretch legs. And so grab another cup of coffee. By the way, I had 3 shots this morning and feel great.
You should do Lauren.
Highly recommend it. Yes, there are shots out in the lobby. Check out our showcase sponsors while you're getting your shots and our Demo World companies in the engineering suite. Be back at your seats in 16 minutes. We got a session with Google, 11:15, hard stop with Google, 11:15.